My sacred mission is to create the perfect society.
He didn't want to make things perfect. He just hated things the way they are.
I want you all to know that I am grateful to fight beside my friends.
Incinerate them.
We were always searching for a family until we found each other.
Are you ready for one last ride?
Aloha! It's Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad, the Island Man, your Island Man. And tonight, Friday night, opening night of Guardians and the Galaxy. Oh, I'm sorry, Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3. I went ahead and I saw it. This is the last Guardians of the Galaxy, most likely to be directed by James Gunn. You know, unless strange things should happen. And this reunites, you know, the crew from the very beginning, you know, with Dave Bautista, you know, Zoe Saldana, Karen Gillian, Pom Clemente, you know, Rocket Racoon, Bradley Cooper, you know, everyone, including Peter Quill, you know, and, you know, everyone is back for this final finale, final installment of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And without further ado, remember our rating scale. Shock a thumbs up. It's good to see. I recommend it. Shock a thumbs down. It's junk. I don't recommend it. And for Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3, it is a shock a thumbs up. Now, let me just say, I had my doubts about this movie. I really did. I saw some of the trailers. I was trying to steer clear of all the trailers and all the spoilers. I was not on board with the whole scenario of it. I mean, and the feel of the trailers. You know, it just wasn't striking me right. And then the fact that they throw in the high evolutionary, a man who has, you know, fought Galactus hand to hand, pretty much, toe to toe with Galactus. And the Guardians of the Galaxy are going up against him. It's like, I'm not sure about this. But regardless of that, it is a shock a thumbs up. James Gunn, you know, pulls it out and goes for all the stops, you know, pulls out all the stops and goes for it in this movie. Let me just say that the people who shine the most in this movie are Pom Clemente and Dave Bautista. Never in any of the movies. Oh, and I also did not like the Christmas special. I saw the Christmas special. I thought it was far too silly, you know, and far too late, honestly, as far as bringing in, we finally get to see Drax actually does have super strength. Before, he was just some crazy guy with a knife running around, slashing at things. Maybe he's a little impervious, you know, and some invulnerability to be able to survive in space and to take all the hits that he does and still stay alive. But, you know, in the comics, Drax the Destroyer is able to go toe-to-toe with the Hulk. And in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, you never felt that. In the Christmas special, you finally get to see him throwing cars around, pretty much. You finally get to see Palm Clemente's character Mantis have some kind of abilities other than her empathic abilities to control people's emotions and sense their emotions, apparently. That she can jump around very much like her namesake, a bug of Mantis. Again, still, and she does a couple of things in the Christmas special. And in 3, and Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 do finally come into their own as far as their character development. Mantis gets a couple of good hits in as being the martial artist from the comic books that she originally was, along with her empathic abilities. Drax finally gets this super strength and impervious ability. So finally we get, them more cemented into their comic book selves than we ever had before. And for that, I salute James Gunn. As far as you've seen from the trailers, Adam Warlock, who James Gunn has been teasing ever since Guardians of the Galaxy Part 1 with the Cocoon, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2 with the Cocoon, finally makes an appearance in this movie. All I can say is that, the main takeaway from this is what we can expect to see, little previews from Adam Warlock into what James Gunn may do for DC and his Superman movie. That's about all I can say for that. In the comics, I've never been a fan of Adam Warlock's. He's always just sitting around, standing around talking, oh, don't do this, don't do this, as the keeper of the Soul Stone or something. He's very, seems very peaceful and non-aggressive and basically, he wants to talk things out and, be at peace and all this stuff. You never really see any of his powers in the comics, or at least none of the comics that I had read back from the 70s and 80s. Even his stint in Infinity War, in the original Infinity War comic series, he was much more like the Jiminy Cricket to Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, trying to steer him towards better ethical practices. But in this, I don't agree with the powers that James Gunn gives Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. It's very un-Adam Warlock-ish. However, it is very entertaining to see him have some powers and basically get, like I said, a preview of what we can expect to see in possibly James Gunn's Superman, because Adam Warlock flies, he's invulnerable, he has these blasts from his hands, not heat vision, but blasts from his hands, energy blasts, and has super strength, aka he's pretty much Superman, a beginning Superman in this, or Superboy, pretty much. So look towards this as the template for what we can see in DC's next Superman movie, directed and written by James Gunn, more than likely. But even finally, Acts 1 and 2 kind of slog through, trying to catch us up to where everybody is. The Guardians, including Nebula, are basically have expanded. They're living out of nowhere, completely done with the Ravengers, continuing good things that they're doing. A little bit of what we had seen from Thor, Love and Thunder, living out of nowhere. And basically, they've gotten a whole bunch of new technology and all this. But Adam Warlock is sent to get Rocket Racoon back to the High Evolutionary, who in the trailers we discover has been created by the High Evolutionary. The High Evolutionary wants him because of his intelligence, because he seems to be the only experiment that he had that actually achieved perfection of, if not in looks, aka an Adam Warlock, but in his mind and his intellect, enough to rival the high evolutionaries as well. And in that he wants to duplicate that for his next round of species, believing to get the, that will help him attain the perfect people and society that he can create. Rocket is, injured to the point of near death, and in order to save him, the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy must attempt to find a way to heal him, and in doing so, they must look into Racoon's past, Rocket Raccoon's past, which opens up flashbacks to his origin story, which I feel, which is good. You'll get tugs on your heartstrings for this, yet still, I must say, it did feel a little cheap, knowing that that was what they were going to do, and it does play out a little slow during the first and second act. Finally, with everything coming together, the big climactic battles in the third act, which really rallies and saves this movie. We find out that Gamora, unknown to Peter Quill, has been basically working with the Ravengers, almost becoming the head of the Ravengers, or at least a faction of the Ravengers, and going that route, forging her own path with them outside of the Guardians of the Galaxy, as she is completely void of the knowledge of the past of the Gamora that died, since she is an earlier version of Gamora and never had the ethical change of heart that our Gamora did, that Peter Quill's Gamora did, before her death with Thanos. Nebula, but we see that she's more of a fulfilled person, having come through the events of Infinity War, that she's very much more comfortable in, I'd say, her own skin, but the skin that Thanos had given her through all those cybernetics, as it's not her actual real body anymore. But she is much more a self-fulfilled person, and almost happy with her place helping the Guardians of the Galaxy and undo some of the evils that she had done working with her father Thanos. Well, what more can I say? Again, it slogs through, will they, won't they, with Peter Quill and Gamora, of will they ever find love again? There's a through line that continues through most of this movie of family, of the family that we're born into, and also the family that we create for ourselves, and a need to come back and reassess one's position in one's own family, and maybe merge the two, or at least come to some type of resolution with both families, both what we would see as our families, our friends, close friends becoming family, and our actual family. Both Rocket and Peter Quinn have this kind of come to realization that they have to face the things of their past and stop running away from them in order to move on with their life. For Rocket, that's to see the high evolutionary. In the end, that's for Peter Quinn to leave the Guardians of the Galaxy, leave outer space, and return home to the family that he still has left, his grandfather, who we had seen in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and even Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, so that he can become reacquainted with the family that he was taken from long, long ago. Even Drax has a moment of family and perhaps picking up the pieces of his life after Thanos's and Ronan the Accuser had destroyed his life and his wife and children. He finds new ways to become a father in this movie and move on from his tragic past. Same thing with Pom Clemente's character, Mantis. She finally gains confidence enough to leave the Guardians of the Galaxy and seek out her own path in the future throughout the universe to see what kind of person she is without having to be dependent upon the Guardians of the Galaxy as she was on Ego all those years ago. She has to find her own way in the universe. And so she goes on that quest alone. So basically, this movie, the third installment of the Guardians of the Galaxy, is a complete series. It is a complete coming home, per se, of our characters. And it concludes this story of this set of the Guardians of the Galaxy, those who we had followed for many years, very satisfactorily from the end, from the beginning of Part 1 through this one, Part 3, and it moves on. People say goodbye, people leave the group one way or the other, and it comes to its conclusion. But as James Gunn indicates at the end, the Guardians will return. Star-Lord may even return in the future. But in some form or another, the Guardians will return. Be it a new Guardians of the Galaxy, a new group, which we are kind of see at the end of this movie in the post-credits and the like, and the end credit scenes. We kind of see a new group of Guardians of the Galaxy taking on the name and leading, people to find a higher purpose and seek out justice for those who are wronged and help others throughout the galaxy. So I won't give you any more spoilers than that. There are many, many brushes with death in this movie. James Gunn does his best to do rope-a-dopes to keep you guessing. And like I said, the Guardians of the Galaxy that we knew are no more at the end of this film. But that doesn't mean that the Guardians of the Galaxy's overall mission has to end, as they can continue on in a different form with different members, as we see in a post-credit scene. So yes, shock a thumbs up for this new installment, the last installment of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and in the future, perhaps a return of a new set of Guardians of the Galaxy for a new adventure throughout the universe. All right, aloha and mahalo, and thank you so much. Check out this movie when and however you can. It'll definitely be the #1 box office draw for this weekend. See it however you want, but it's best on the big screen. And the third act, as slow as, you know, as slow as the middle of it kind of goes, with a lot of, you know, flashbacks and backstory and origin stories of Rocket, and, you know, the almost tedious, Gamora, Peter Quinn romantic, you know, predicaments. The third act definitely saves this, and there is some action in the very, very beginning as well to get you well into the mood and, you know, finish you off through this movie in the very end. All right, again, aloha and mahalo.